My 27F, wife, 30F, and I recently closed on our dream house and it has the family torn. Years ago my grandparents owned the family home, but when they died unexpectedly with a lot of medical debt and expenses our family had to sell their house. It was heartbreaking and sad and I decided as a small child that one day I would buy the house back. I shared those dreams with my sister. I met my wife when I was 18 and she was 21. Her parents owned a small rental that they allowed her to live in rent-free, just paying for the expenses. She invited me to live with her a year into our relationship and we got married a year after that. I told her about my dreams of owning my grandparents' house and she fully supported me. We began putting large amounts of money back for a down payment in the hopes that the house wouldn't go on the market before we could afford it. Because we didn't pay rent and both had good jobs for our ages and the economy we lived in, we were able to put back a very large sum of money. My in-laws also offered us a sum of $75,000 for the down payment and in total we put back about $185,000. About 20 years after my grandparents passed away their house finally went back on the market at a massive price. The house itself is huge with 6 bedrooms, a large lakefront estate, and several features including a pool and small guest house. We knew that this house would have a huge price tag and we skimped and budgeted for 9 years to afford my dream house. My sister was also house shopping at this time but with a much smaller budget. Her and her husband have children, student debt, and rented for the past several years and were not able to put back money in the same way my wife and I were. When our grandparents' house went on the market I sent the link to my sister and said that we were finally getting our grandparents' home back in the family. She was very excited and said as much and that was that. My wife and I moved forward, visiting with the owners and real estate agents, having it inspected, and made an offer. They accepted and we were absolutely over the moon. Throughout this whole process my sister kept saying how excited she was to have the house back in the family and how nice it will be for her children to know this house and grow up in it like her and I did. Our grandparents' house was the location of every birthday, holiday, gathering, and reunion. And my wife and I planned on making it that way again. Which was why what my sister said didn't raise any red flags. Weird that she'd phrase it that way but not concerning. We had a barbecue at my parents' house to celebrate the final closing of our house. During the dinner my mill offered to kennel our dogs while we were in the stages of moving to keep things easier and them safe and that was when my sister piped up. She asked why our dogs needed to be watched when the real issue was her kids. My wife asked what she meant and she said that her kids will need more supervision than our dogs and that she was confused as to why we'd be so busy that our dogs needed watching. I told her I was the one confused. I didn't know she was helping us move and that if her kids couldn't reliably be left to their own devices then she absolutely did not need to help us pack. My sister proceeded to ask why my wife and I would be packing. I told her the obvious, we just closed in a house? For length reasons I'll leave out a lot of the back and forth but here's the gist of it. My sister had it in her head that we were buying the house to either A, rent to own it out to her family or B, transfer the title to her name and have her pay us back in time. Yes, that is literally what she was thinking. Despite us never discussing anything like that once. When I told her that was not happening my sister threw a fit. She was pissed because this was her dream too. And that it wasn't fair that only one of us could live it. That since she had children they deserved to grow up in the family home and what did my wife and I even need all that space for? My wife told her that it isn't the family home anymore. It wasn't left in a will, we purchased it and now it is our home. And we decide what we will do with it. My sister told my wife to shut up and that she had no say in this family discussion. I informed my sister that if she spoke to my wife that way again we would not be having any kind of contact with her anymore. That she doesn't get to assume we're giving her a house and then throw a hissy fit when she's put in her place. And we left. My in-laws spoke to us on the matter a few times but all told us we were in the right and that my sister was very out of line. I assumed everyone would agree but if they did I wouldn't be on this thread. I got texts and voicemails from my parents saying that we were out of line threatening my sister. They told me they were disappointed in me for taking my sister's dream from her and that I don't have kids so I can't understand or want to provide them with a good home and childhood like she had. That it's only fair we set up a way to give her the house and that we could afford to find something else. Even my more distant relatives have said that it was cruel of us to take that from her. I'm honestly super shocked and taken aback. I've seen stories similar to this on Reddit, entitled people thinking they should get their relatives' houses, but I never expected to live it. This feels surreal and I hate that we're starting this new chapter out on such a sour note. Ada for buying my sister's dream house? The house is big and expensive but it's severely outdated. Which is why the size and features don't exactly match the price in today's housing market. Like I don't think any owners after my grandparents renovated a single thing. Also I am a woman lol. Update 1. To those who suggested getting a security system in place, we are going to do that but the house is not in a place where a security system can be installed. For the time being we're looking into getting some battery power trail cameras as suggested by one Redditor. I can't find your comment in the sea anymore but you know who you are. We don't have to worry about internet access and they won't be in the way of renovations. We are restoring the house back to its original glory, pre-carpeted bathrooms and mismatched wallpaper. Besides fixing broken shit and upgrading old appliances we'll be having the floors redone, paint, wallpaper, new windows, and opening up some walls that shouldn't be there. For the next 2 weeks my wife and I will be meeting with people coming out to work on electricity, plumbing, and a few other things, and we do have a consultation with a home security company. Along with cameras, we're looking to get alarms and door codes and set up an access gate around the property. One of those that needs either a passcode or to be let in by someone in the house. We've already made an appointment to have the locks changed and aren't concerned about my family trying to squat there. My in-laws have allowed us to park their camper trailer on the property while work is being done, not only for peace of mind but to avoid commuting back and forth multiple times daily. For the actual update. I was hesitant to post this update since it's so soon after my original post, but I guess enough has happened for it to be useful information. The events of the barbecue took place last week, but I only got around to writing it all out yesterday. I sent a message to my parents and siblings yesterday evening asking to meet up to talk things through and try and figure out what's wrong and what exactly the hell is happening. Earlier today my wife and I met my parents and my brother's family at his house before my sister arrived. I let them know that if they tried to interrupt or control the conversation we would leave. I told them that our once even suggested my sister would be allowed to rent out the house or buy it from us. That you didn't know where she got the idea from, and showed them the text strings where I first sent her the listing in every conversation where I updated her on the progress. My mom asked to see the rest of the conversations about the house and I told her there were none. She informed me that my sister told them all that we had made an agreement that my wife and I would purchase it and then rent it out to my wife's family until they'd paid enough to buy it. That we would live in the guest house and they'd get the main house. She told them that we had went back on our deal and had absolutely shattered her dreams of raising her kids in the house she grew up in. We gave our side and it wasn't difficult at all to convince my parents that we were telling the truth. With the lack of evidence on my sister's part and absolutely no legal documentation, my parents didn't even attempt to try and back up what she told them. My parents were very apologetic and let us know that they never would have said those things to us had they known the truth and that they supported us 100%. My brother was supportive of us as well, but he was never one of the people harassing us over this, so his reaction is less important. Around then my sister and her husband showed up. My Bill is a doormat and will give my sister whatever she wants, so I wasn't expecting much from him. I asked her to produce any of the necessary evidence to prove that I told her we'd rent the house out to her. That her lie was ill-conceived and that she better have a good explanation. She attempted to suggest that I had deleted the conversation, but when she couldn't produce said messages either, her story fell apart. She started crying, saying it wasn't fair that we got everything handed to us and that we didn't need a house this big and that we were rubbing our wealth in her face. So to my understanding she thought she could trick everyone into bullying us into renting our house out to her? I guess? Like some kind of fucked in the head Scooby-Doo villain? Instead of using ghosts to scare us away, she's using a fake rental agreement that she didn't even attempt to make look or sound legit. We let her know that she had a lot of apologizing to do before we'd consider having a relationship with her moving forward and that she wouldn't be welcome in our home for a long time. At the moment our relationship with my parents is rocky at best, for obvious reasons. They let us know that they're here to support us if we need moving assistance or help with renovations, but it'll take some good hard thinking to decide if we're okay with that. We will not be giving anyone in my family a spare key, but my wife's parents will receive one for emergencies. The house won't be in a state to host guests for a bit, so we are choosing to cross the "can my family be trusted at our home" bridge when we come to it. To answer some common questions I've noticed in the comments. My sister obviously has some screws loose, but my parents don't really coddle her. She's what you can consider the golden child, and the baby, but honestly most of her antics up until this point were just one-upping achievements during our childhood or seeking more attention from our parents. She's dramatic, entitled, and a little selfish, but has never displayed this level of crazy before. Yes, we will get a security system, but not for a bit. No, my family will not be trusted with a key. Yes, I am a woman. I know it's crazy, how can two women be married, lol. My wife and I do not have kids and will not have them in the future. My sister has done some odd things, but nothing as absolutely absurd as this. We will be meeting with an estate planner to put everything into writing. We plan on leaving the property to my sil and her kids, with my mill as the executor of our estate for the time being. My sister and her family rent a small house in town. They aren't ruggling per se, they each are college educated with good jobs, but children are expensive, and then adding in student debt and $2,000 a month in rent and you aren't exactly living it up. Also, there's a surprising amount of people mad at my wife and I for being rich. We are not wealthy. My in-laws are comfortable and are generous enough to allow us to occupy their rental at no charge. They bought a new house decades ago and just didn't sell their previous one. So they allowed my wife to live there. The down payment was my wife's college fund from years ago. Her parents put money in it, but when she decided to go into a trade they kept the money and saved it specifically for the purpose of a down payment. When we told them that the house was up for sale, finally they offered the college fund they had kept for her. We worked good paying jobs but were able to save so much because we didn't have to pay $2,000 a month for housing. We did skimp and save, and we did damn well earn it. We lived below our means and spent years foregoing any kind of luxuries to afford something we wanted. So yeah, not as drama filled as a lot of people were expecting or hoping. I don't see this as the end of it, not at all, but for the time being my wife and I are focusing on dealing with our new house and not my sister. She's blocked on both our phones as of this morning, and I'm not sure when I plan on unblocking her. Now on to second story. Told my wife about childhood absy while watching a triggering show, now she called me a liar and doesn't believe me. I 27 male and my wife 26F have been married for 2 years and have been together for 6. As context, I was repeatedly raped by my brother's babysitter when I was around 9. She would grope me, force me to remove my pants and then either stick my dick in her mouth or try and give me a handjob whenever my 4-year-old brother slept. Most of the time I was paralyzed and couldn't do anything to stop it. She would always buy me sweets or video games for my DS as a reward. So in a weird way I started growing attached to her and would try and seek the abuse if it meant getting her rewards. I knew whatever she was doing was wrong, but she would always threaten to take my life if I ever told my parents, so I never did while the abuse was actively happening. Everything stopped as soon as she graduated college and moved states. I only realized how fucked up the things she did to me were when I was around 14-15 and understood the concept of consent. When I tried to open up to my parents, strict Catholics, it never ended well. First they blamed it on porn and claimed it corrupted my mind into imagining these things happening to me. If I claimed I was telling the truth, my dad would beat the shit out of me and my mom would ground me. I tried opening up to my friends but their reactions weren't any better. My male friends just called me lucky and asked if the BJ was good. My female friends claimed I was just lying to get attention and laughed in my face. I learned to just try and forget the past and vowed to myself that I would never mention this to anyone again. Now on to last week. Me and my wife had heard some good things about this show called Baby Reindeer on Netflix from our friends. Going into it I knew it revolved around sexual abuse and stalking. In my mind I thought I was over the past and I could handle watching the show no problem. Big fucking mistake. At the end of episode 4 I was literally on the verge of tears and I felt all the supposedly forgotten memories come flooding back. At the end of the next episode I couldn't hold it in anymore. My wife paused the show and just stared at me. After a while I did finally manage to calm down a bit. She asked me why I was crying and I just let everything out. She said she was sorry, hugged me, and we went to bed soon after. I apologized to her the following morning for ruining our night. From the moment I let her know about the abuse I felt something change in our relationship. No more kisses when I came back from work and no more initiating anything intimate from her side. She wasn't mean or anything, but I felt like something was bothering her. I tried to apologize for maybe making her uncomfortable, but she would just claim there was nothing bothering her and I was just being paranoid. Yesterday me and my wife got into a pretty heated argument about her lying about taking out the trash, but during the argument she said something that floored me beyond belief. She literally said, "At least I'm not lying about being raped, you fucking narcissist." I literally couldn't process whatever just came out of her mouth. She tried apologizing right after saying that, but I just packed a few clothes and left to stay at my friend's house. She tried calling me several times since, but I haven't bothered picking up and have blocked her for time being. I know I might have trauma dumped on her and I know women aren't into that, but I just want some sort of acknowledgement/support. I don't have anyone left to turn to with this and that's why I'm posting here. I've had 2 therapists to date and both didn't seem to help much. I'm gut is telling me to divorce her, but she's genuinely the love of my life. Throwing away 6 years because of this one moment doesn't sit right with me, but Wibta for divorcing her? Am I actually the asshole here? I would love to hear some of your guys' opinions on my situation, and if you've read this all the way through, thank you Oop. Thank you so much. I'm pretty sure this happens a lot to women as well. I went to a few anonymous meetings and heard a lot of the same from women who claim people just thought they were trying to get a settlement or something. Update 1. Shortly after posting, I did decide to go back home. I had work the next day and didn't want to burden my friend with my marital issues any longer. Upon coming home I was met with her screaming at me for just leaving the apartment, and ghosting her without having an adult conversation with her. I just let her know how hurt I was by the things she said to me and that I needed some time to myself to gather my thoughts. She tried arguing back with how there is nothing to think about and that I was being an immature crybaby. From that point onwards we have barely been on speaking terms. I know a lot of people are going to be mad hearing this, but the longer I thought about my marriage and my wife, the more I wanted to give her another chance. She wasn't perfect by any means, but neither was I. A lot of my past relationships ended as a result of my past catching up with me, but I really want to change it this time. She isn't the first partner/friend to have this type of reaction to what I went through. I know it's tough, but I feel like I just needed to bite the bullet if it meant keeping my sanity. I didn't want to start over again. After we somewhat started talking to each other again, I sat her down for a serious conversation and let her know again how hurt I was by everything she said. I let her know about all the ridicule I suffered as a result of me opening up and her having the same reaction, just reopen unhealed wounds. She just kept quiet until I mentioned couples therapy. She then started crying, but not for the reason I thought. I tried holding her, but she just pushed me away and screamed that I seriously thought about ending our marriage over some silly argument we had and that I was just trying to make up some sob story after watching Baby Reindeer for attention and sympathy. According to her, all of this was just too convenient to be believable. If it was real, why didn't I mention any of this throughout the 6 years we have been together? At this point even I started tearing up. I apologized for keeping this from her for so long and then tried reassuring her that I in fact wasn't making this up, but she just slapped me and stormed off to bed. That was a week ago and I have been sleeping on the couch ever since. Whenever I try to speak to my wife, she just makes snarky comment towards me and just storms off. I just cry myself to sleep most nights and just wish I never fucking watched that show. None of this shit would have happened. I currently don't have the money for therapy and just feel lost. I don't want a divorce. I want to try and make this work, but this whole mess is just so draining. Am not in contact with my family, so I don't have anyone I can turn to with this. Update 2. I realized that I was definitely in an abusive relationship, and even though I wanted to make the marriage work, she has shown zero willingness to change her attitude towards what I went through. 2 days after posting my update, I contacted a lawyer and filed for divorce. I gave her plenty of chances, and she has time and time shown me that she won't even acknowledge my trauma, let alone show me any form of support. I initially kept everything a secret and slowly started preparing my assets, savings, joint bank accounts, etc. I did finally tell her about me filing for divorce, and she didn't take it well. She tried fighting it and claimed I will never find anyone else that's willing to put up with a giant pussy who can't even admit he wanted whatever happened to him. According to her, no woman is willing to put up with an attention-seeking crybaby like myself. I'm not going to lie. What she said got me, and for a brief moment I considered halting the divorce, but after she came home drunk one night and berated me for an hour straight, she snapped me back into reality. I don't know where the woman I fell in love with went, but that wasn't her. Looking back now, she'd given me plants of red flags, but I just ignored them for the sake of being loved for once in my life. For once I wasn't called gay for not being able to have sex when immediately getting into a relationship, wasn't laughed at for having random seizures, etc. I moved out of our apartment after her rant and have been STAing at my friends ever since. After she realized I wasn't coming back anytime soon, she DM'd all my friends claiming that I was an attention whore and was making up some sob story about being raped and that she was the one actually filing for divorce. Not only that, but she also told them that I was physically abusive, and according to her they shouldn't hang around a guy that hits women. Most of my friends just immediately called me names, told I failed as a man, and blocked me. The friend I'm currently staying with seems to be the only person on my side. I was doing an apprenticeship at a bank and she even started sending them evidence of me abusing her. I have no clue what she wrote to them. I had a meeting with HR on the 20th and they've decided to fire me. I tried fighting it, but they just said that I wasn't worth the hassle. I'm now back doing construction, don't have a proper education, and have lost almost all of the people I'm close with. I'm just beyond tired at this point. Not angry, not sad, just numb. I feel like whenever I try and take a step forward, I take 3 steps backwards. Maybe I am just this unlovable and pathetic. Maybe I deserve all that's coming to me. I just don't know anymore. As stated by the title, this will be my last post. Reddit has given me so much great advice and made me realize so many things, and I'm beyond grateful for every single one of you who helped me, but it's also destroyed my mental health. For every 50 positive and supportive comments and DMs I've received, I've had one person say the same things I've heard all my life, and I've let those people get to me. A lot of people ask me why the hell I have such strong feelings towards my babysitter giving me blowjobs. First of all, I was 9 and she on multiple occasions threatened to take my life. Second of all, I left a lot of the other details out of my post because those memories are just too painful and I didn't think it was relevant for the purpose of my original post. I am going to mention them here since I've nothing left to lose at this point. She would shove things up my ass like cucumbers, pens, etc. She would regularly hit me in the balls to punish me for disobeying her. She would dress me up as a girl and would force me to dance for her and pose in suggestive positions. There were times where I couldn't walk properly because of the things she did to me, and I got ruthlessly bullied in school as a result. How would you guys navigate my situation?